We are going to have another amazing conversation today with my guest, Ungenita.
Welcome to the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez. Entrepreneurs are leading the way and creating a whole new level of possibility. Each week, listen in to hear how brilliant entrepreneurs share their brave secrets. Entrepreneurship is not the easy way. It is the brave way. Now let's get our brave on.
I can't wait to dive in because she is a friend of mine and she is an amazing soul, an amazing spirit. And we have highly connected in business and friendship. And I just can't wait to share her story. So welcome, Ungenita. How are you, gorgeous?
Thank you. And we connected in beauty.
Yes, 100% beauty. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I would love for you to just kind of introduce yourself, share what you do, what kind of work you do in the world and the amazing difference that you make. And then we'll dive in.
Awesome. So I'm Ungenita Prevost. I'm a former Hollywood body double turned award-winning feminine leadership expert and million-dollar saleswoman. I coach women entrepreneurs in three major areas. I help them master their message, monetize their networks, and I show them how to sell themselves, their products, their services, their ideas, and strategies. So that's the short and sweet version.
That's the short, sweet. I love it. And I know, and you do it so beautifully. And I think the important message here is that that's not where you came from, right?
Nope.
So we want to dive into kind of the underbelly of how you got to where you are. So would you mind sharing your story? It's really powerful.
I always start my talks with this phrase, don't let the glitz and glam fool you, because people tend to judge me, Jena. You know,
judgy.
Or they look at a photo because I like to take glamorous pictures.
Yeah.
And it you know, evokes this stereotype.
Right.
And, you know, I had a very humble beginning. I was taken away by my father when I was about a year and a half old. And I was taken away from my biological mother. My biological father kidnapped me. And I ended up pretty much living a life with strangers after that, because he sort of left me with his girlfriend. And then, you know, I ended up in foster care. And I was aged out of the system at 18 years old. So I've experienced every financial hardship. And when I say every, I mean, I've experienced homelessness. I've experienced like being jobless, cashless, carless, and parentless. So I understand like all the struggles that we see in the world. I can relate to pretty much anyone. Now, obviously, I can't relate to people in third world countries because I'm American. I'm right now in the UK. I live between London and Los Angeles. But I pretty much experienced like, you know, a lot of hard SHIT.
Right. A little hard crap going on, you know, and I think that's, you know, first of all, I commend you for even, you know, saying the truth, right. And sharing the story. And of course, that's what this show is about, is I know that the transparency is imperative for people to understand who we really are, that it isn't just the 7-second first impression. And I get that. And that's why you and I think, connected so well, is that our first impressions of each other were obviously relatable and we're dynamic and we have, you know, a message to share and we have an impact to make and all of this. But, you know, you and me both come from a world that's much different and much harder and very survival based. And, you know, living on food stamps myself, having moments of homeless and couch surfing and
oh my God, do you remember food stamps? Jena, do you remember food stamps?
The like, paper ones, not the card.
Yes, like, do you remember like when those packs would come and you only got a certain amount of food stamps and you go to the store and it was like the beginning of the month and you can go shopping and you can get like food with food stamps. Like, I mean,
it's crazy. And then what's interesting, when I haven't even thought about this in so long,
I know,
is what did it make me feel in the moment though? Because when I look back at that, well, now that you brought that up, is the lack that it created for me. Is like, there are only so many, and that's all
Yes.
you get for the month.
Yep.
Right. So anyway,
Yep.
I just heard that. I just saw that for the first time, remembering, like
Yep.
what a conditioning process that is. And so obviously we have this, you clearly have even a deeper story around the system and having to navigate all of that emotionally and physically and mentally and all of that. So what were you saying to yourself in those hard moments as a teenager, and as obviously an 18-year-old now? You're like aged out of the foster system. What are you saying to yourself that keeps you going?
Well, what's so funny is I used to dream a lot. And I remember when I was in the projects, and I used to sit and I used to look out the window and I would dream a lot. And I think that really helped me, because I remember I was about 10 and I remember fantasizing about going to Los Angeles and becoming a star. So I always knew that there was something more for me. And I was very lucky because my foster mother, bless her heart, she passed, my first foster mother, but like, she just treated me like I was special, because everyone else treated me like I was a problem child. And I would go into school and they knew that I was, sort of the foster kid. And, the other kids had their own parents and I didn't have my own parents, and I lived in the projects. And she always made me feel special. So there was just something inside that made me feel like, you know what, you're different. There's a possibility you could do something with your life.
This is not
more
the story.
More than this current situation. Yeah.
I love that. And because partly because I didn't know the answer. And we hadn't talked about that. And secondly, because that's what I think had me get to where I am, is that there was a statement when I would get to a point where, it's almost like my limit, like this has got to change, like something's got to give. And that's, even when I had to move out at 14 and out of the domestic violence household that I was living in, and all of that, is there's got to be a better way. Those were the words, right? And and followed with, I know there's something, better for me, and this is not my life forever, So I love that you speak about dreaming and having a knowingness that there's something more, and that's not the limitation, that's not the end of the story. And so I know that, people watching, we don't have to have our necessarily hardship upbringings to have a sense of like, I'm living in lack, or living in limitation, or not living the life that I really want, or, so it can be very different circumstantially for others out there. And yet I think the message of dreaming, visualizing, seeing something bigger and seeing something brighter, can pull you through wherever you are, whatever darkness you're experiencing in whatever form. And so so you're 18, you're aged out. Now what? What's the rest of that story? Where do you go from there?
I mean, literally, my foster mother, I think I was on to my third foster mother by that time. And she sat me down and she said, you have to go. Your time is over. And I was already working, because being in the foster care system, you don't get to experience the things that, most little girls experience. So I had to go out and work. So every weekend I worked at a real estate office from, I think it was 8 to 5. And then I also worked part-time. I worked at a shoe store selling shoes. I did telemarketing after school, because I wanted to still like experience life. I wanted to be able to go to the mall and buy clothes and makeup and, all the girly girl things, right? So I had to have my own money. So I was already working. So that was a good thing. But when I was aged out of the system, I had to, find a place to live. I didn't have a car. And I had to make sure that my job at Macy's at the time was going to cover all of my expenses, bus fare, food, you know, all of a sudden I had to pay like the electrical bill and, you know, the basics, right?
Right.
And that was very scary. I have to tell you, it was really scary. But I rented a room and I found a place near Macy's and I made it work. And, you know, I like I said, there's something inside of me that's, you know what, you know, like, just keep doing this, but you're going to get, you know, you're going to get to move on to something bigger. I think I just had that inside.
The knowing. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I personally have looked back at the first half of my life and said, you know, this show's about being brave, right? And so I think there's a sense of brave by survival. And then there's a point where it shifts to brave by choice, where we're not so much in the fight or flight or the survival mode, meaning, you know, having to get a job because it's like, I got to create my own money and I got to get a car and I got to get to work and I got to do these things to it. It creates an urgency. It creates that push that a lot of people may not experience. And so that's why I call it brave by survival. You're still being brave. You're still doing it, because you could go the other direction and just sit out of the game and sometimes check out of the game 100%, right? There are so many ways that people have coped and dealt with their circumstances. And I believe that, you know, we're not our circumstances. We are the response to our circumstance. We are, how do we show up for them? And so once you figured all that out, and I mean, you have such a resume and you have such an amazing, you know, it's like, how do you go from that to what you've accomplished? And so kind of bridge the gap for us. Now, tell me again, where were you living? Where were you, when you say you're in the projects, what city were you in?
So what happened was, this is where the story, you know, actually, you know, gets the plot thickens, I'll say.
Right.
So I was still in New Orleans at the time. And my foster mother had a seizure when I was 12. And at that time, my biological father's family intervened, and they thought that they would go out and find my mother. Now, they kept this secret for 12 years, right? I didn't even know that I didn't even know the woman that was my mother at the time was my mother. And so at 12 years old, I found out my mother is dying and I'm going to meet my biological mother.
Wow.
So they decided it's time for you to be with your biological mother. Well, she came from California. She picked me up, put me on the plane, and then all of a sudden I was with her. Well, guess what happened? It didn't work out because she was not fit to be a mother. And within less than 2 years, I was back in the foster care system.
In California.
In California.
Got it.
So I literally, 15, I'm back in the system. 18, I'm aged out of the system. And I received a grant, but like this is really where the shift happened. And this is kind of like because I received a grant from the state of California to go to beauty college.
Love it.
And it was the best thing for me, Jena, because I loved makeup. I loved fashion. I loved like getting my nails done. And, you know, I loved it all. Like I was doing lashes before like people knew what lashes were. Like I just loved it. Right. And what happened was I just got this confidence. And I started working in beauty and doing makeovers for retirement homes. And then I got a job at the body shop doing makeup in the mall. And then all of a sudden I thought, it's time for me to go to Hollywood. I want to be a star. I'm going to go to Hollywood.
Got it.
And my foster mother's, my second to last foster mother's granddaughter was a makeup artist in Hollywood. And she said, well, why don't you come to Hollywood? You can sleep on my couch. So I saved up $1,000. I called a boyfriend at the time and I said, can you drive me from San Jose to Los Angeles, pack up all of my stuff in a U-Haul, and I'll pay for your plane ticket to go back? And he said, yes. Wow. And literally drove to California with clothes. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty vain, right? Just like, that's all that I had at the time, right? It just had clothes.
I got it.
And And all of a sudden I'm in California and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm like, I got to make it work. And so that was like the sort of, pivotal moment in my life, I would say, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Wow. We have so much in common.
I know.
I'm like, I won't even go into all of it with myself, my story, but this is so good. We'll have a glass of wine later. We'll talk about that. But
when I get back to LA.
So when you come back to LA, you're in London right now. So when you get back, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And so I love that. So fast forward to the amazing work that you do now, and I know that you speak a lot. I mean, you're an example of not only the ultimate brave master, right? Following the breadcrumb, following the next step, got a grant, doing the work, following the next request called come to Hollywood, and then it's like, I got to make it work. And so here we are, and you're just following the next step, right? And I think what I'm curious about is, was there ever a point where you doubted yourself or you weren't confident in what you were trying to do or what you were up to? And how did you navigate that to bring you back on track? Because you've done some amazing things and you've worked with obviously some amazing people, and yet they're just as human as the rest of us, right? And yet it's they're coveted. They're people that all kinds of people would love to work with, right? And yet, it's almost like, how did you find your confidence in the process, or did you ever lack it, if you know what I mean?
I always, and I still have those moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know how to deal with those moments. And I credit the beauty industry. I mean, and this is what I share with women. When you learn how to make the most of you, okay? When I was a foster girl, and, kids at school would tease me because they thought I was a foster kid, and that meant that no one wanted me, and they would tease me. And it was that belief inside, I would say 75% of the time,
mm-hmm.
that I had a belief in myself. And because I was confident in like my outer exterior, right? Like I just would always present myself a certain way. And that's what drove me. So when I was taking the bus and I was making minimum wage, I would just make sure I looked nice. And I presented myself, because that's all I had, right? I didn't have a car. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't even go to college. But it was just, you know what? Get up in the morning, take a shower, do your hair, put on some makeup, put on a nice dress, and just go out into the world and do what you do. And that was it back then. Yeah. And so when I got to Hollywood, I was a little intimidated, because of course in Hollywood you hear like, oh, there's all these beautiful people, and are you going to measure up? And there was a little bit of like comparison back then, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to look compared to this woman? And oh my God, but once I immersed myself into the process, and I always had a business mind, because I didn't even realize it, right? I was applying business skills when I was aged out. I learned how to sell myself because I had to sell myself. I learned how to communicate because I had to sit down and sell myself to get the job. I always got a job. Like I would get fired and then I would get a job. You know what I mean? I would get fired and then I would get a job. I always was able to get a job because I knew how to communicate. I could talk during an interview. It was very interesting. I spoke, powerfully and intelligently. So I was able to move forward despite the fact that I came from, all of the, the stuff, right? The negative stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I carried that into the entertainment business.
Love it.
But then I picked up the networking skill and the people skills and putting myself in the right circles and asking the questions and, not being afraid to ask. A lot of women are afraid to ask. This is something that I teach. You've got to learn to ask for what you want. So here I am, this young girl in Hollywood, asking if I can, audition for this part, asking if I could, work with this agent, and sending out mailings. I mean, I just put myself out there, but I still had that, like, who are you? The nerve of you. How are you going to measure up? Like, who wants you? And that's how I became a body double, because I was out there, and I had an agent at the time. Of agent said, "Oh, why do you want to be a body double? Like why do you want to do?" At the time, I was dancing, and I wanted to do the Jennifer Lopez thing. I wanted to be a dancer, a singer, and actress, right? So I had 3 agents, and I was going to vocal lessons and dance lessons and theater, and I was doing it all. And this agent was like, "Why do you want to do this showy stuff, right? You're supposed to be a serious actress." And she wouldn't let me go out for the music videos. And so I said, "You know what? I'm going to go to the casting director." And that's how I auditioned for the Janet Jackson video, which later led to me being her stand-in, her photo double, and doing some work with her. So it just evolved, but I still was dealing with my own issues within. And I think that that's what I want to empower women with, is that it doesn't go away. Okay, let's be real. It doesn't go away.
Correct.
But you just have to navigate, right? And learn how to deal with it. So I can show up in this video right now and, be confident, but I'm still dealing with life. Life happens. It's not perfect, Like I told you, I'm moving. Like that is the most unglamorous thing, right? Is to move. It's so you got to box stuff up. You got to throw stuff away.
Yeah,
so
it's a whole purging process of it's not the fun stuff necessarily.
No, it's
but
not fun,
Yeah,
but
and it's so interesting. I there's a couple things I want to anchor. One, I talk a lot about outsmarting the ego and recognizing the ego tricks, the tricks that the ego plays on us, and it will never go away. But I think what mastery is, brave mastery, is about, number one, facing yourself, owning your stuff, knowing what you feel, knowing your emotional intelligence, and being able to live predominantly from a place of higher knowing, right? Higher self, knowing you have confidence, knowing who you are, knowing what you want, being able to ask for what you want. And then, yes, there's going to be 20-30% of the time, or maybe a little more, I don't know, where we're living with the ego tricks. We're living with that egoic mind. And yet we know enough about who we are that we can quiet it down, and we can do whatever we need to do anyway. Yeah. And so that's what I heard, is like, that's the game. That's how you and me both have moved from the beginnings that we started with, was tapping into the knowing that I've got something to say here, or I've got something to be and do in this world, and do it regardless. Keep asking, keep showing up, keep networking. And I love how you it's like the casting agent. It's like, fine, I'm going to go around you.
Exactly.
I know I want this.
I mean, I worked with Steven Spielberg in Amistad, and I got that part on my own through a casting director. And I mean, I'm on set with Steven Spielberg, and the next thing you know, he's asking me to do this shot, and I'm like, oh my God, Steven Spielberg, I'm freaking out.
Yes, but do it anyway.
And he's like, excuse me, are you listening? And everyone was quiet on the set, and I thought, oh my God, Steven Spielberg yelled at me. Oh my God. But guess what, Jenna? I gave him his shot. It's in the movie.
I just do it anyway. Right? Manage the mind.
Look, not too many people in our industry can say, I've been directed by Steven Spielberg. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can't. So I've done some other things. I was more in the
I just start my bio that way now.
Yes, right. Yes, I've got some other accolades, but I never went the acting route. I did more the modeling route, and did some good makeup artistry for some different photo shoots and things like that. So I was in that realm. But and regardless, I think the amazing message here is that, number one, you started dreaming right?
Yes.
Very early
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Number two, in the brave of survival action mode, right?
Yep.
Of just taking care of business, taking care of
Yep.
things, doing what you need to
Yep.
do. And then you move to Hollywood, and I see the ask for what you want, know who you are, trust in yourself enough
Yep.
to take a chance, right? You never
Yep.
know where it's going to lead. And I see how your breadcrumbs, you know, you do one thing and then it led to something bigger.
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
that's the power of trusting our own answers and following our
Yep.
gut. I call it gut and faith, hashtag gut and faith, right?
Yep.
And so now, obviously, fast forward into the amazing work that you do now and the feminine leadership and helping, you know, sales and network and communication. I think it's an interesting conversation. You and I have talked a little bit about how different, especially with social media and, like, you know, the world is changing, but the fundamentals are required, right? It's like communication skills, being with people, those kind of things. So can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yes, because, you know, I founded the brand SellingINStilettos.
Yeah.
And some women love it. Some women are intimidated by it because they somehow think that I'm going to require, like, them to wear high heels. And Jena, you know that I don't always wear heels. Like,
I don't either.
Like, you've seen me before, Jena, in person, and you know I don't always wear stilettos. Okay,
That's
Jena's
right.
my witness.
Right. I'm your witness.
So,
that's 100%.
It's just a brand name, right? But
Yes.
the point is, I understand sales from every different angle. Walk into a room, make a sale. Sit in front of a computer, make a sale. Pick up the phone, make a sale. Because in my early years, I had to sell myself. And I served over 50,000 women during that time, that from 15 to around 20, I'd already served 50,000 women every day, working in retail, you know, asking women, you know, would you like to try on this lipstick? Oh, here's this new blush. Oh, by the way, check out the new dress I'm, you know, putting on the mannequin. And then I had to hear women ask me questions. Do you think this color, you know, will look good on me? Do I look fat? Do you think my boyfriend is going to like this? You know, like, I dealt with all that early on. So it was easy for me to apply that to the online space. But what I noticed is women, they sort of have this, most women, I'll say, they've been I don't want to say stereotyped, but they've been brainwashed to believe that they don't have to sell. Okay. That somehow when you're online, you're just going to show up. People are going to press a button and buy from you. There's no, like, selling going on. And I think that's the reason that we have these issues with sales. Like, they're only 39% of women have a sales position, okay, across all companies, right? So what does that say? That says we're not embracing sales, but yet our numbers are really down when it in terms of our earning potential. Because we have to sell. So I learned how to sell myself by default because I had to survive.
That's right.
You know, I learned how to communicate, and how I take that skill, I share with women how to take a clear, compelling, and articulate message to market, because most women don't know how to introduce themselves. They don't know.
100%.
Like, we network together, and how many times do we see women stand up in front of a room and they're like deer in the headlights, right?
Deer in headlights. Yeah. They just don't know.
They don't know what to say. They can't communicate the value of their offer. And then they wonder why they can't get clients. And then, of course, networking. Networking is a big deal. Like, I was networking in show business. How did I get to meet Janet Jackson, Steven Spielberg, Ashton Kutcher, like Jon Bon Jovi, dancing in a video with Robert Palmer? How did that happen? Because I was a great networker. So I take those three skills, and that's what I teach women how to do. And that's what transforms, in my opinion, their life, because they have real skills. They have the fundamentals that will never, ever go out of style. I don't care what algorithms show up tomorrow. I don't care what social media app, you know, launches. You can survive and thrive in this world with those skills.
Yeah. And I really love that, you know, and it's interesting because I have a 15-year-old daughter, right? And we're beginning the conversations of working and, you know, making your own money and, you know, and all that. And all it's the one thing I didn't get taught, right? I had to figure it out on my own. And I promised to, introduce to her, number one, that she has all that she needs to be able to earn money. And it's about her
Nice.
selling herself and selling what she
Nice.
knows best. And
Nice.
it's just, and then you got to get creative at times.
Yep.
But versus dependent on the paycheck, dependent on, if I don't get a job, I don't make money. And that's a very limiting story, right?
Yep.
And so it's that conditioning, and I think a lot of us were conditioned. I mean,
of
if
course,
you're our age, you know, we were raised in an environment where go to work, 9 to 5, get a job, retire 50 years later. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like that doesn't connect with me. And so I had to figure out the entrepreneurial thing on my own. And regardless, obviously we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of leaders here on this show. And I think obviously they can relate to that we are here to create our own destiny and to create our own earning potential. But I love how you have summarized the basic skills, and still, as many people as we know, you and I both, the lack of that sales skill, that ability to make it something easy and powerful and not something to shy away from, right? Is still an epidemic. I still see it as something to continue to work on. Like you said, the stats show it, right? And so I just love that. I love what you stand for. I love that, you know, I love where you come from, and therefore how much you care and how much you believe in what you do. And I'm just really blessed to know you. So
thank you so much. And I'm so honored to know you. And I have to say this because a lot of times you don't get to meet people in person. We met in person first.
Yes.
And I just love your presentation. Like it's amazing. Like she does a great presentation, and I just love it. And it's so funny because it was so intrinsic, right?
It was very intrinsic. That's how it works in my world. Yeah.
Yes. It was like, I want to know her.
Yeah,
oh, you're a makeup artist? Oh, I was a makeup artist.
And I know, I'm telling you, we're going to have wine when you get back in town, because there was like, you shared more, right? You shared more about your story. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have even more in common. It's great.
There's so much. Great. Can you imagine? Like, we haven't even talked about going to school to do makeup, right?
Right. Exactly.
We haven't gotten that far yet. So
we haven't gotten that far.
Next conversation.
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure. Many more. Well, I thank you so much for your time, especially the time shift from LA to London. So thank you for making it happen. And I just really can't wait to share your story. And I think you're just a testament to, number one, stop judging a book by its cover. Understand that there's a whole world of pages in the middle, and how you present yourself and how you show up and who you be can make all the difference of the results and the circumstance and the life that you create. So you are creating a beautiful life, and you're helping others create that and tap into their potential. And you know, that's my game. That is why I'm here, is to help people step into that. I love you. And I just really, really appreciate it. So how can people connect with you? What is the best way? What would you like to guide them to?
Yes, please connect with me. And now I'll just make this real simple. Go to ungenita.com, and you can check out my site, check out what I'm doing. And then if you'd like, you can book a call, and I'm happy to jump on the phone with you 45 minutes and explore what's possible for you. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, you're welcome. Please make sure you connect with Ungenita, and we will put a link to, she's even got her calendar. She's like, here's my calendar. So for any of you that would like to connect with this amazing woman, please do so. I will put the link in the show notes. FeminineRichPowerful.com, I think is the link. And and so I want to wrap this up with one final question.
Sure,
And
sure.
that is this: if this was your last interview, your last conversation, last stage, right? No more talks, right? No more speaking gigs. What would be the message that you want to leave in the world?
Oh, that's a good one. How about this? Be the woman of your dreams.
Amen. And make sure you're dreaming.
Yes.
So you know who that
Yes.
is.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, my friend. I
Thank you.
really appreciate your time and energy and just all that you bring to the world. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I will see you when I cross the Atlantic.
The ocean. I can't wait. I can't wait. We'll make that happen for sure. All right. Until next time, everyone, let's go get our brave on. Talk to you soon.